right, welcome to the Off Track Podcast in-person edition. I don't have my usual co-hosts here, but I have a very special person in the fixed gear community. This is Zach ZLOG Hoffner. If you don't know who Zach is, Zach was basically there at the beginning when everything was going on, documenting, blogging, all the good stuff. Zach, can I get a little bit of your take on your relationship with fixed gear as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. So my relationship was, I think a lot of people started this way, I guess maybe this time period where you just, it was a new thing, and people were still figuring stuff out. So how did it start? I believe it started with the bike messenger scene in Seattle, and made a couple of bike friends. And I swear the moment where I first saw like a fixed gear rider that I was like, that guy's super cool. I believe his name was Jewel, and he was a bike messenger in Seattle. I was on the bus and just saw this dude cruising, in and out of cars. And I just was, in my head, it stuck with me being like, man, that looks like a good way to get around. And later on that year, I was at a party and the guy was there, and it was like kind of a bike messenger party, a group of bike messengers showed up, and this guy showed up, and his name is Jewel, and introduced himself to me or whatever. We just met through this party, and he's just a nice guy. And I was just told him like, hey man, I think I saw you riding and your bike's cool, and what's, and he started telling me about his bike, and it was a fixed gear, and I was kind of just learning about it. And I think I maybe was looking for a road bike or had gotten a road bike. So I was kind of like bike minded at the point, but I didn't really know much about it. I was just kind of like, trying to find something to commute. And so, yeah.
You got the road bike, and the road bike was probably like, whatever, don't really care too much about
it. It wasn't as cool as these guys, right? So
all
these guys were like, these weren't even hipsters. They're like more like crusty punk, like bike messenger, like just like dirty dudes that were doing work, and just like having fun and partying and stuff. So I was like, dude, these guys are the cool guys. And so, yeah, I'm trying to think how my first fixed gear started. Oh, yeah. I met this girl at a party, and we dated briefly, but she was just this cool chick. She had a fixed gear. I think it was a Kunane Uno, or they had these random. Jacob, yeah. Jacob's here.
So we have. Jacob, so we're in Oregon right now for Kareem's wedding. So the fixed gear minds have gathered.
We're all here.
Jacob Ruff, our beloved Jacob Ruff, is off camera, so we may address him. Jackson Bradshaw also just walked in.
In the building.
He will not be joining us at all because he's lame.
Yeah, we're doing super conversational, so I might call to Jacob for my own memory.
Yeah.
But actually, he might not even know. So, I don't know. So a random bike that she spray painted and customized, so it was like very cool. And, she was like a little older, and so I'm like, man, she's super cool. And so that's when I started building mine. I was like, okay, I got to get a frame, and there's a Paquet. I got that frame and ordered some deep V rims, and it was kind of like piecing it together. And it was like, pimp my ride or whatever.
Yeah,
but bike
one piece
edition,
at a time.
Trying to customize it. And so I was into the whole customizing.
That was the fun part about fixed gears. It was such a fun bike to customize for some reason.
It was easy to figure out too. It wasn't like, oh, you don't have to worry about a derailleur or anything, or brakes or anything. I was just like, put it together and
you could do it all yourself.
Yeah.
And something about the color options that you had was just felt unlimited. So many frames came in so many different colors, and then the components all anodized different colors and stuff.
It was a parts bin bike. So my first bike was black with gold anodized parts, and I remember trying to track down all the right color gold. And it was like one shop would have like a Nito stem that was anodized by some company, and then there would be another different gold, like the deep V rim gold was different.
Yeah,
so trying to
different
find
shades of gold.
But there was what was that bike company in the Midwest that I think they made?
Milwaukee?
Yeah. Was it Milwaukee? Yeah, they did a bunch of anodized stuff early on, and then they had to stop because
1/8 inch?
No, I think it was Milwaukee, or Yeah, whoever put out the Bruiser, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so they had early on their website, I think before they ever had even their own frames or the Bruiser, it was a lot of their business was like taking like group sets, like NJS group sets and some deep Vs.
Shout out Ben Cycle.
Ben Cycle. Thanks for our reference god over here, Jacob Ruff. Yeah, so Ben Cycle was doing that. I think the Ben Cycle gold was a little bit more deeper gold, and then the deep Vs. So anyways, anodized parts, like you said, and then I had a Davidson, which was also a black handmade frame, and I bought it off some lady on Craigslist who used to race it in Pursuit track racing, and she had blue Campanolo BMX. They're BMX cranks, but they're essentially track cranks that were anodized blue, and they just market them to BMXers. So
Okay.
yeah. So yeah, I had some anodized parts here and there. I liked a little pop of color. Is that what you're referencing?
I don't even know how we got there.
You said a lot of colors.
Right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You could.
I was trying to figure out what you're talking about. I was like, didn't have a lot of colorful bikes.
Not necessarily, but I did at first. I had blue.
Oh, you had
like I wanted like blue.
Oh,
blue.
Okay.
And you could like find all the different blue shit that you wanted, or if you wanted a green bike, there was all green options. I want to hear about ZLOG though.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Like,
let's go.
Why did you start media coverage and blogging and all that good stuff?
Just out of necessity, really. I mean, I just wanted to, because I felt there was a lot of cool stuff going on in Seattle that wasn't getting any real spotlight in the few blogs that were around at the time.
Which were what?
Which Traco was the big one. I think that the comment section was such a, I don't know, hotbed for conversation, I guess is a nice way to put it.
A lot of people
talking trash and making fun of this type of fixed gear or that type of fixed gear. And I was more of like trying to bring the positive vibes to it and not just cause a bunch of drama, really, or like talk about the drama. And so I just wanted to highlight some Seattle riders. I remember I would like send, you'd send them some pictures, and sometimes they'd post it and sometimes they wouldn't. So I'm like, man, if I just posted my own content, and blogging was really hot at the time, or was
blog era.
Yeah, it was like early, I guess, maybe. So I felt like I was getting in early on a couple different things, blogging and fixed gears, and just a lot to explore. And I kind of was just doing it
videos
out
too.
in the open. Oh yeah, video. We started video with the same thing. It's like no one wants to film me, so let me buy a camera and try and figure it out. Or necessity, or just the desire to do more stuff for Seattle, because Seattle kind of got overlooked a lot.
Who were the biggest? What were the biggest areas that were getting covered at the time?
It was like San Francisco,
New York,
Philly. Tom LaMarche obviously was repping Philly, and it was like Traco was doing good at spreading it around. Like it's a worldwide thing, and like a little bit of, I think maybe he had some Japan writers, but it kind of gave me a reason to like reach out and meet new people within the scene too, because it's like I had a buddy who's from Seattle that lived in Japan and knew some riders out there, and so you're like, oh, you ride bikes, you ride fixed gears, like about this really niche thing. Let me put you on my blog. And so I had like kind of a Japan connection early on, where I was like, I'm gonna cover these guys, and I can't even remember a lot of the names at that point, but it was just like, oh, my buddy Tim sent me this photo of a guy on a track bike in Japan. I'm like, I'm gonna cover that or put it on my blog. And so I kind of just tried to like absorb everything and try to get the most original content that I could, and then also share the content that other people were putting out that I thought were really interesting, I guess.
Yeah, there wasn't that much, at least to my knowledge, Japan coverage really in the States, huh?
Not until the trick riding started coming around, and then you had some people doing really crazy stuff.
Who were some of the early Seattle players that you started covering and shooting stuff of?
Early Seattle, I mean, a lot of the Macaframa guys. Macaframa came through. They were in Seattle a couple times, and let's see, I'm trying to think of who I actually covered versus just these guys I knew that because some of those guys were already like, oh, they're in with Macaframa or something.
Were there in Macaframa? Were there Seattle-based dudes? Because it was always hard to tell from an outside person looking in, like who was San Francisco, who was Seattle.
Well, some of those guys moved down there after they met those guys, and they're like, oh, these are the cool guys. This is where all the cool stuff's happening. They dipped out. But like Jason Majid.
That was my favorite section.
Really?
Yeah.
Jason, shout out. He just moved to New York, I think. Yeah, he's doing really cool stuff with like making art and all that cool stuff. But Jason Majid, PJ I met at
How do you say his last name?
Is
it like Wybush?
Wybush, I believe. Yeah. PJ I met at a party. Like he's the first person one of the first person I met in Seattle, and he just happened to be in to Fixed Gear later on. Like he was in the cool crowd, but Kia, yeah. Let's go through the list.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah. Kia, definitely the homie. Yeah, there's a lot of dudes. So Kia, Keo, of course, the god.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, PJ was a crust punk dude that I met at a house party when I was like 19 or whatever, and I was coming up to Seattle to like go to house shows and stuff. And then I remember he hated me when we first met because I was just some like dude from the burbs coming up and like crashing this fucking crust punk party. No, but yeah, then we ended up being like good buds, and yeah, and he was one of the guys that also I think linked me with like the Bike Messenger guys, because he was like, that was probably the party I was at. He probably invited me to or something.
So early on, it seems like this was a little bit before the trick era. Is that right? Would you say
there was a little bit of mixed in, because it's like I met these guys and Keo was doing tricks like right away, and like people were doing like bar spins and skids. It was skids. God, man, I honestly am trying to think of like all the people I was putting spotlights on at the time, but it was mainly just people who were going to Fast Friday. That squad, like if you haven't seen the Fast Friday movie, check it out.
I put it on the Fixed Gear archive recently.
Oh yeah,
Fast Friday documentary.
I feel like I watched it a few times since you put it on there. I'm like, cool, I don't have to bust out the DVD.
It makes life easy. Also, I put the Revival on there.
That's a good one too,
which we'll get into, because the Revival is a big part of Seattle and Zach's history, I guess, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you take credit for discovering any Fixed Gear talent? Like, were you the first one to ever?
Oh,
like,
yes.
This is the guy you need to watch.
Well, I'll give the credit to Pete Falcone, actually, but my homie Steven Jensen, I ran into him at a bike shop with, Pete Falcone. I know him through the tattoo industry world. And he's just like, yo, this is my buddy. And everybody kind of knew me as the Fixed Gear guy. So, like, yeah, like, meet this guy, Steven, and I think he pulled up a video of one of his BMX edits or videos, and I was like, dude, you're 100% better than everybody out there right now if you just get into the Fixed Gear thing. And I think he was already buying parts, so he must have got in already. So we just connected, and I think at one point Steven said, I was his first sponsor. So
Sick.
Yeah, I think that was maybe my one.
You heard it here first.
My one guy.
Zach discovered Steven Jensen.
Oh, yeah.
Those are two good names.
Some more Seattle names. Oh, yeah, Justin Ave. Jake Ricker. He moved there kind of in the middle of the heyday when all the Fast Friday stuff was going off. And
that pink arrow spoke was iconic.
Dude, I remember when he found that. It was a 650, I believe. It was at a random bike shop, like hanging up on the wall. And I swear he paid like nothing for it, because they were just like, nobody wants this. They thought it was like a BMX rim, or it might have actually been a BMX. Then he spray painted it. They did some splatter paint. That stuff was pretty cool. But yeah, Jake Ricker, cool guy. He's doing some stuff in San Francisco right now, shooting the San Francisco Bridge. Just is like out on the bridge every day. Justin Ave was an early player who was coming to these events, and then he was he went and visited Japan, and was in a like Japanese edit or video. Like they actually produced.
Oh wow.
I forget what it's called, Sanbancho Crew, but I don't know if that was the name of the video, but it might have been. But yeah, and I remember that was cool. Like, oh man, the homies are traveling overseas and getting put in edits, and everybody was just trying to support everybody back then. And I don't know if I feel like it's still somewhat like that, but it was a very open, like, hey, let's show the world that there's some cool stuff going on. And everybody was just trying to like capture the moment. And
I feel like it was like that, and then it stopped being like that, and now it's kind of back to that. I don't. Everybody is globally very supportive of each other now, which is pretty cool.
yeah, I think that's what really set it off. And then it came into the fixed gear culture became mainstream. Like you would start seeing bikes in commercials, and in the background of car commercials, like, oh, this guy's hanging up his bike and going for a drive in the new whatever car. And it's like you could tell that they're trying to like market stuff to our group, and you're like, oh, we've made it. All right, now it's time to find something new. Like, I don't know if that's the reason why things kind of dropped off.
I still I do see fixed gears in the back of commercials and stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
Still, and I'll pause the TV and take a picture of it every time I see it now.
That's so cool.
It's kind of
Dude, now you got like, what was it, a T-Mobile commercial? Or was it an Apple commercial where there's like straight up the homies riding through the city? Was it you? Were you in that? No, who was in that? I feel like people I knew. Where I'm like,
I don't remember this. I don't know if I saw this.
This is.
I know Mike Chacon did a Keo-spin in a Apple commercial for 3 seconds.
Was it Matt Reyes in like some?
Oh, he was in an Xfinity Mobile.
But it was like
commercial.
it was promoting an iPhone or something, I believe.
There was phones involved.
Okay.
Yeah. I was actually in a T-Mobile commercial with Slum also.
Okay.
I never saw any of it though.
Huh.
You
shot it, but you just never saw it come out.
Yeah, I got paid though.
So
that was cool.
All that
but
matters, right? Some people just do that for test shots or whatever.
I don't know. Well, it was like we got paid a usage fee where it was like, yeah, this is guaranteed to be used, so you're getting more money, which is cool. So I don't know if it just never crossed my radar or it never ended up getting put out. So yeah, look out for a T-Mobile ad with Slum and me that may exist in the wild.
Yeah,
somewhere.
when that stuff comes on, I'm like, you see that guy right there? Oh yeah, I know him. It's just so cool. And anyways, not sure where we're at. But.
Well, when did we were talking about Seattle players?
Yep.
And we have Jamie here meeting Chris Clapp, filming Chris the Butcher edit, future tense events. I guess before, kind of in that.
Do we want to go over the crew, squad?
In that same vein, I was going to ask, when did the modern day ZLOG crew come to play? Chris, Tyler, Jacob, you.
I believe it started with Chris. And Chris was a friend of Devin, who they're married and have kids now. Devin was one of my besties, and still is. And she's like, I'm hanging out with this guy. He rides bikes. You guys should ride together. I'm like, oh, yeah, right. This guy probably doesn't even ride fixies. This guy probably doesn't even ride hard.
He doesn't even ride fixies, man.
I know. We would never call it a fixie back then. We were like, dude, he's even ride fixed? No. No, but he did. Worked at Whole Foods, and I just remember I met him the first time, and he's like wearing like extra tough boots, boots that you would, it's just like work boots or whatever. And I was just like, whatever. And then the next time I met him, we rode, and I think he had the GT triple
Pulse?
Triangle. Yeah, and I'm like, dude, sick bike.
Gutter
He might have
ball?
even had a NJS bike at the time. Like he was making good money at Whole Foods back then.
Wow.
And back when you could actually live in Seattle, make a living working at a grocery store and all that stuff. But anyway, so he had sick bikes. I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. I underestimated this guy maybe. But then we rode together, and he's doing Keos and some other foot drags and stuff. Like I'm like, where did you even see this stuff? Because I felt I was the only person who knew this these niche things. But it's like, I haven't heard of you. Like, where'd you come from? Like, how'd you see these things? And he's like, oh, I watched
you know here.
Yeah, and so we rode, and then immediately I'm like, dude, we're fast friends. It's like, oh, cool. We're hanging out in parking lots, just working on little tricks. And then around that time, I think that holiday I had asked for a camera, like a video camera. Because I wanted to do more video stuff because, no one was asking me to go film. So I was just like, yo, I'm going to grab the camera and try and figure it out. And then, we filmed The Butcher, which it was just basically like a bro love affair at that point. Or just for me, I'm like seeing Chris. I'm like, dude, you're so sick. you're doing these cool tricks. Like, can I, like, let me film it. Like,
I want to put you on.
I want to put you on. Right. And it was cool. And I think it still holds up. I found a cool song that I think fit with it. I'm not the best editor. And I look back at my videos and I'm like, I'm so glad that Chris got into editing and doing video stuff, because I was focused on like capturing the scene with like the blog. And I was like, the video stuff was just like extra, content. But
yeah, it was kind of interesting. In your
Chris
crew,
started doing editing.
In your crew of 4 people, you had 3 editors: Jacob, Chris, and you.
Yeah, well, because they probably saw how much I sucked at it, and were like, I want to do it better. Yeah, so we had Chris at first. Was it Tyler? Okay, so let me tell origin stories. Chris.
Wait, hold on. Before we get into that, where were you at with tricks at this time? Like, were you at the forefront? Were you kind of taking a back seat?
I was never as dedicated and hardworking as the people around me when it came to the physical aspect of riding. I would think I was practicing wheelies, and I had Keo spins. Like, me and Chris I feel like he's probably better than me at certain things, and so we were kind of like doing the same kind of tricks at first. And okay. My shit was pop-up tricks. So not moving. I'm like track standing, right? It was track standing, balancing with no hands, and then popping it up with no hands, doing a bar spin, and then landing it. And so it was very like static, and it was all tracks. I remember before I did video stuff, it was like getting my friend Brian Roccapiso to take a picture of me. Like, I would do a pop-up, put my hand through the frame, grab the tire, and then pose for a picture, and then we like a split second, and then it'd be like, cool, got a photo of me doing this weird pretzel trick. And then it'd be like, oh, okay, this one I'm gonna tip my hat. Or I remember I had like a hat one where I took my hat off while I'm doing a track stand, and I think it got posted on Tracko, and they're like, props for being in the straps for this or something like that. And you're like, yeah, sick.
How often did you get posted by other blogs?
Probably not
before you created yours.
I mean, maybe a couple of times. I think I had a couple, like a build posted, like my Davidson maybe made it on a Tracko. And I think I got bit by the bug because I saw the response, positive and negative of just, that. And I'm like, oh man, I want more of that. So I'm going to start my own blog.
What were you reading mostly at the time?
Tracko. I don't know if I was into Bike Snob at that time, but he was a big one early on. There was Bike Hugger. There's a lot of bike stuff that weren't necessarily fixed gear specific. I'm really straining to think about much more. I'm sure some will come to me.
That's okay. Anyways, we can get back to like Tyler joining in and Jacob origin story.
Yeah. Tyler came out to Future Tense. Or was it Fast Friday? It was Fast Friday at the time. So Fast Friday was a monthly event put on by Dustin Klein of Cadence. And he really popped off the Seattle scene, really. So he's that's my origin story, I guess.
What did those events look like?
Yeah. It was a group of people show up at the park. Or actually the first ones were, if it was rainy, it was at the Cadence. They had like a little underground, space,
like a basement.
Yeah, like a basement. He had like a little studio. There was like an open area basement for like, it was basically like a little parking garage, if that. But so, yeah, it was like maybe 20 people. It's just, if you watch the Fast Friday movie, is very representative of that culture. And it was like get together, and then Dustin would be like, yeah, I got a couple prizes. You guys race to this spot and come back, and then whoever wins gets like this, dope custom messenger bag that he made or something. And he's married to Ellie from Reload, so they would have Reload bags. And Reload was in the space.
Oh wow!
So Reload was there. So Reload, Dustin Klein and Cadence, they were the people who were like fostering this like environment in Seattle. And now I kind of can remember more of my origin story, where I was telling Jacob this earlier. I saw like Dustin at a FedEx Kinko's, and I was like trying to go in through the wrong door, and he's like pointing like, oh no, door's over there. So I walked in, and he was like printing out flyers for Fast Friday, like one of the very first ones. And it was like, here you go. And I'm like, dude, this is like some secret underground shit, and it's so sick. And
that literally sounds like the way you discover things in a movie.
Exactly. And I was like, I have to go check this out. And it was like the address was like cross streets, and it was just like where the sidewalk ends. And I think I still have this flyer somewhere in like my pile of stickers and memorabilia and stuff. And it was so like,
did you know who he was when you saw him?
I think I'd seen him around, riding maybe, but I didn't know who he was. And then I went to that thing, and then I actually ran into a couple of buddies that I knew at Fast Friday, and I was like, oh, this is the cool guys are hanging out here, and like the bike messengers and the tricksters, and I think that's where first saw Keo and all that stuff. So yeah, that was kind of cool. And I even think that he had wheat pasted some Cadence like logos around town, and you're like, oh, that's what that is. Like, so kind of all put the pieces together. And so where are we at? Yeah, early Seattle. Tyler, maybe?
Yeah.
Let's go Tyler.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so Fast Friday. Back it up.
Yep.
Fast Friday. Tyler comes out, does a race, smokes everybody. You can tell he does BMX, like actual BMX racing. And he's just like smoking people. I think he had just an aluminum track frame, And so me being like I don't know, just seeing him and being like, dude, this guy's sick. I don't know if he was doing tricks or anything like that, but you could just tell he's like super talented young kid that like wasn't really talking to a lot of people. He's kind of just sitting off on his own. And like, it was a kind of a crowd where you're like, I didn't pretty much know everybody here. So I just went up to him like, dude, what's up? You're sick, whatever. Like, good job. Like, who are you? Like, where'd you come from? And he's like, dude, I came up from like Gig Harbor. And like, he traveled to Seattle to come to this thing. And I'm like, that was kind of unheard of at the time. It was just like usually Seattle homies that are like, so he had heard of it somehow. And yeah. And so
he was one of the first to make a trek to it.
It was definitely like, this guy's good. I got to get him. I got to give him free shit, or I got to like put him,
just
be
put
friends
him
with him. And yeah. And so.
So you discovered Tyler also.
No, I can't take credit for that. I think whoever, whatever, Fast Friday brought him out. But I definitely tried to, capture his like greatness, because he was just like always doing cool stuff. So I think everybody wanted a piece of Tyler right away because they just saw like the potential. But yeah, I can't really take credit for that. But he definitely was doing a lot for himself to where he's gonna stand out. So
yeah, Tom put it in a really good way on our last podcast where he said Tyler is an extremely gifted human, and Fixed Gear was blessed to have him attend our sport, basically.
Absolutely. Tyler,
whatever he would have touched, he would have been like, he would have just
he's
been
an
good
extremely motivated, like self-motivated person, and like dedicated to whatever craft he puts his mind to. And he doesn't have an off switch or a scared whatever the don't do this switch, if you're doing something scary. He doesn't have that switch. So I think people realize that and just know like Tyler's gonna be the one that like goes for it. Yeah. So it was Chris, Tyler, and then I'll tell you Jacob's origin story. Jacob was the very first person that ever bought a ZLOG t-shirt. He emailed me.
Oh my God.
Jacob,
we have the receipts here. Okay.
What does it say?
So I can't believe you saved this email. So this is an email from Jacob to Zach in December 18th, 2008. It reads, "Hi, I'd really like to buy a shirt from you. Size medium if you have it. I will be in Seattle starting on Sunday and over New Year's. Do you have any still available?" Zach replies, "Hey Jacob, I can see if I have any. I can see if I can get one printed real quick. I still have samples, blah, blah, blah. I'll keep you updated. Thanks for the support." So this was the first interactions, I assume, between the two of you.
Yeah.
Did you get that shirt?
He came to my apartment and picked it up at the, what do you call it? ZLOG HQ or something back in the day. It was a studio apartment in a house that was like sectioned off into these little tiny. Oh, Jacob was nervous.
Oh, Jacob was nervous to meet Mr. Zach.
Yeah.
So he was already a name at the time?
I was a nobody.
I don't know. Jacob says you were somebody.
Well, Jacob gave me I feel like that gave me energy to be like, whoa, if somebody is like this excited about what I'm doing, like must be doing something right. So, he fueled me just as much as I'm sure I fueled him. And that's the cool thing about this kind of scene. It was just like everybody like gassing each other up, and it's just like
just super supportive,
positivity, and Seattle gets overlooked a lot. Like if you're in LA, it's like, dude, there's too many people, like too many or whatever. I don't know, I don't live there, but a lot of things going on, so it's like easy for people to just be like, oh, that's stupid. I'm into this other thing that's cooler. When Seattle's just like small town vibes in a kind of big city, or a small city vibes, and I don't know.
Well, if we're talking about in the fixed gear specific context of Seattle versus LA, I feel like Seattle LA didn't get much early coverage in fixed gear. I can't think of a single name.
Those guys were all like Wolfpack Hustle guys that were like more like, let's do long rides or do cool midnight rides or something.
Like the first LA people that I can even think of that started becoming like popular or whatever is like Congo.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess so. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess maybe I'm misremembering it, but I felt like we got overlooked on a lot of like travel stuff. Like people didn't really.
They didn't go.
I mean, when they did though, it was a big deal. So like Macaframa came up like, yo, we had basically a connection to the SF dudes at that point, because it's like we just made friends with people,
Yeah.
But yeah, events and stuff like really didn't come through Seattle, so it's kind of, we had to like kind of.
So you made your own.
Made our own.
Future tense.
Yeah, and so that was just a, extension of Fast Friday.
So, but you didn't have involvement in Fast Friday, did you?
I was just a fan, and the involvement I did, that was actually one of my first like design gigs, where I actually found this email recently, and it kind of like changed my whole perspective on the whole situation. So Dustin Klein, once again, I was like going to school for graphic design, and I'd probably just graduated, and I had some connections with the print shop, and the print shop was like, oh, we'll sponsor this. We'll sponsor your event. We'll get you some T-shirts for free. Yeah. What does it say? Oh yeah. So I think I hit him up, and I was like, hey,
Why do you have that?
I just sent it to him actually, because I found it. I was like, yeah, you'll take it. Yeah.
This is an email from Dustin to Zach.
So he was encouraging me to do a T-shirt design, because I was like, hey, I got a connection with a T-shirt printer, so he'll print shirts for free for these events. And I was basically hitting up Dustin like, hey, just being the connector, right? Like, hey, like you give them a design and they'll print it for free. And
you're the middleman.
And then Dustin, what he said, yeah, I think you should design the shirt. Guidelines for the project. And this is like my first, like, kind of like, here's my project. First project. Fast Friday logo must be in Century Gothic bold. Reload and Cadence logos on the shirt anywhere. Don't put a date on the shirt so they could be used for a few months. And then most important, have fun, do your thing, and rock it. I can't wait to rock one of your shirts. And so that kind of set me on a good trajectory of like someone I admired. They're doing their own thing. Put me up there and like let me do my thing. And, I was just kind of like trying to be in with the cool kids at that point. And then it's like kind of allowed me to, use my graphic design skills. And we, put that out. And it was, it was just a cool thing that I was able to involved with that. And so, that was my only real involvement. I didn't help organize it. I didn't do anything other than, I think I designed a flyer and a T-shirt in that.
So, Fast Friday stopped. When did that stop roughly?
Ooh, that's tough. I'm bad with dates. I just remember like Dustin and Ellie kind of got priced out of Seattle at that point. I think their spaces that they were in the rent was going up, and I believe they moved down to Portland for a while, and they might have moved somewhere first, and I think they ended up around Portland now. But was it 2000?
Jacob shakes his head.
I know why. I know. Okay, so it must have been 2007, because the first future tense was 8808. Oh. And I just remember because the eights.
So you started future tense out of the lack of Fast Friday.
So basically. I actually did not start future tense. Oh. I was involved with it. I got invited to help, but I was the only person that showed up the second month, basically, or no, so Justin Av and Ryan, Extra Tough Ryan, who did, he had a bike blog as well. And it wasn't as trick centric, but it would be like, oh, you know, he's posting all cool bike stuff. And so those guys were like, hey, Zach, you know, come in and like do the design stuff, and, you know, we'll all plan this together. And then Justin Av was, I think it seemed it turned into like, okay, now Zach, you run it, and Justin gets to compete in all these things. And then Ryan, I don't know if he ended up just taking a back seat or moving or something like that. So I ended up kind of, it fell in my lap. And I think a lot of the best things I ever do are things that other people start and kind of just like let me do my thing with them afterwards. You know, it's like if I have to put the pressure on, like I'm creating something and it has to be the best, it's almost like too much. It's like
overwhelming.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I can spiral and think of like how I want to do stuff. But sometimes when you're just kind of given something with like the parameters and you're like, all right, now you go run with it, and it just takes all the pressure off of, or like the expectations out of it. Where like I didn't expect to do anything with this, and it's just,
fall, and then you just kind of are able to put your vision into something that exists already. So you don't necessarily need to build the infrastructure, but you get to design the fun parts.
You can start molding it then, and so you know, like I'm bad with picking a name, right? ZLOG is the most basic blog with
Zach blog.
Exactly. It was like, okay. So but you know, people got vlogs now, so I guess you know, it wasn't too far off. But yeah, so
you're onto something.
Yeah, Future Tense, I didn't come up with the name or anything like that, but it was like these guys who were like, they really wanted the event to continue. Dustin gave us the blessing as far as like, yeah, you guys keep going with it, you know, super positive.
Well, I thought why did Dustin need to bless it?
I think people were like, we didn't want to step on toes, and we didn't want to like.
I thought he was out of. I thought
he was out, but
Seattle.
it was like, hey, would you be? You know, we basically took his formula of, you know, meeting up once a month. We changed the day. He used to be first Fridays. I think we were second Fridays or last Fridays, or maybe I don't know. But yeah, so and then we did a lot of Future Tenses. And that was a reason for me to design flyers and take photos and, you know, mess with typography and highlight my bros that are like, oh, Jacob's on the cover of the flyer this week or this month. And then, you know, like, and then people would show up, and then it also more content for the blog where, okay, there's some winners, people 1 foot down, who 1 foot down. And then people wanted to go to my blog to see their name from the event. And it just kind of was all like like a big circle of, you know, like just content, trying to like create it and report on it and create a buzz, I guess.
Yeah. And that worked, right? Like, were you doing ZLOG full time at this point?
I was for a while. Like I had a design, like that print shop I was working at didn't really work out. And then I had quit a job to work for that job, working with the homies, and then, you know, working with the homies doesn't always work out. So, yeah, I basically left. And I was cheap enough in Seattle where I could pay my rent and just, like, sell some T-shirts and, sell some tees and got by. I had some advertising at one point where, you know, like Leader Bikes and, like, Mission Workshop and I-D.
Yeah, I was going to ask how you were monetizing this.
It was very cheap for them. It was probably like, give me $100 and I'll put your logo on for like 6 months. You know, just I just need some cash, you know, like whatever.
Quick cash.
And it was kind of like, okay, well, it wasn't super automated, so I like had to physically go in and put up like a banner and put a link to it, and I couldn't really track the clicks very well, and so it didn't seem to me like it was worth it. But I'm sure the companies are like, I just want to see my logo up on the site that people go to a lot.
I mean, I know that as a consumer, I would see the brands that were on the side. I'm like, oh, those are the cool brands. Like, that's how it was on, you know, when I went to any blog. I was like, oh, these are the brands I need to be paying attention to on the side. So I think it worked.
Yeah, cool. That's good to hear. Yeah, I just,
it's the first time you've ever gotten feedback on that?
Well, I always was skeptical of online, like, clicks and links, you know, like what really translates into sales.
Yeah.
I think it's more right now, it's very like a science, you know, where it's like how many clicks to get this, and
it wasn't then.
We know exactly what you bought now, and you know, back then it was just like, dude, am I really adding value to this? But people just want to support me, and I think I was hesitant to like push that because I was like, no, I want to make a physical thing that people can buy, do collabs. I want to put my logo on things.
Speaking of logos, Jacob asked me Jacob had a good note for me. Thank you, Jamie. Design the inspiration behind the ZLOG logo. What was the X's with the
I don't
with
even
the face?
know. I just drew something one time and I was like ZLOG, and so I kind of in my head I tried to think. I was kind of like, like Michael Jordan sticks his tongue out, and when you
So you're a basketball head.
Michael Jordan was one of my heroes growing up. So yeah, grew up watching basketball, love basketball. And it wasn't necessarily like I'm thinking Michael Jordan, but there's the Blink 182 logo that I see in it. Not that I was directly affected by it, but the Nirvana logo, where it's just like a face, a smiley face, kind of like whatever, sour face. It was the poison. What's that poison logo? It's like the green sticker you put on stuff. That's like if it's poisonous.
Oh yeah.
So like all these things are kind of like floating around in my head, I believe, and I think I just took little bits and pieces of everything. But it really was just me sitting down and drawing the words log, and like what naturally kind of just came up was this like the O that was the puke face with the crossed eyes. I was obviously inspired by a cause where he's doing the crossed eyes and his log, and I don't think I was trying to like be like, oh, I want people to think this is cause or anything like that, but I definitely like that era. It's like,
what is cause for those?
Cause, streetwear brand out of Japan. I believe Nigo is the guy. I could be wrong. But yeah, it was just like this cool like graffiti artist that would go and they would take, he would take posters from like the New York City subways out of the case, and then would go like draw over them with some like cartoon would usually have crossed eyes or whatever like that, and that was kind of his calling card. And then he would put them back up in the subway, and people would think they're real advertisements.
Cool.
And so that was cool. Yeah, it's KAWS. If you don't know, I thought he was kind of well known, but people might have forgotten about him.
We got Gen Z watching.
So. Yeah, let's explain some of the old head stuff. But yeah, some graffiti stuff. Like I think that was inspired me, and I wanted it to be like kind of a graffiti like tag, whatever. Like, oh, this was my fake name. That if I were a graffiti artist, which I wasn't, didn't have the balls to go and spray paint shit.
It could have been your graffiti artist name. Could have been your music stage name. Could have been anything.
Yeah. So it was like me make stickers, and put on light pole or put on bike rack, and it was just like me getting. That was advertising back then. You order 1,000 stickers, you give 200 of them to your homies that are going to be at the bars that night, and they're slapping them on every single bike rack they can find, or in the bar or in the bathroom or whatever. And there's still some burners around Seattle where you're like, oh, this dumpster still has an old ZLOG.
That's so cool.
Stuff. Yeah. So
what were there any notable collabs that you managed to secure with the brand? Like, what were some of the biggest ones or your favorite ones?
Collabs. Who did we collab? Oh, so my homie Actual Pain, he doesn't run it anymore, but he had like a cool, like, it's like a metalhead dude. He was in bands and stuff, and he was a Seattle guy. He had a cool like metal inspired Seattle streetwear brand, and we were just like, hey, you want to do a collab? And so he printed a ton of shirts that were like, he was way bigger as far as like producing stuff. So that was a cool one. We did one called Hell on Wheels, and he drew it, which is cool. And I was like, I didn't have to do much. Just he did all the work and gave me a batch of shirts, and I got to sell them. And so that was cool. I did one with the straps that we did were really cool. Oh, so we did 2 straps, actually. We did reload straps at first because I knew those guys, and they had just, I think they were making straps, and they put out some waxed canvas for one of their bags. And I was like, hey, this waxed canvas would be really cool on some pedal straps. Like, I had some patches. And so I sent them ZLOG patches, and they like sewed them onto some straps. And I basically got like those straps. And then that was very limited. Those did really pretty good. And then we did another one with this company that hit me up, 14 Tooth. And the appeal with those were like they had like some metal hardware on them that were a little different than like the D-rings and stuff, and they had kind of a different like look, and the way that they sat, it was like they kind of prop themselves up. They didn't like flop around like some of the other ones. And they were like, just like, hey, we have this cool design and we'll do all the production, just this is how much it costs to do a batch. And it was like reasonable. And then their packaging was really good. Like they had like the laser cut. They had like a laser cutout on their packaging. I was like, dude, these look so polished.
Yeah. If you were at Suck My Comp, I'm pretty sure the most recent one, 6, we had a pair of these ZLOG straps to give out courtesy of Zach and Jacob Ruff. So I don't know who has those right now. Somebody got a pair very recently. If you have them, comment.
Yeah, I have like probably 4 or 5 left if anybody wants. Just get them out of my closet. No, but I kind of have them as like keepsakes too because they are pretty cool little packaging.
Yeah.
But another collab that, speaking of the patches that ended up going on those reload straps, is we did a Cole headwear collab. Wow. They did our beanies, and that was basically a buddy who just showed up to one of the events, and he was convinced this big beanie company that they need to do a collab with me. Basically, he's like, you have to do it because this guy is in the culture that you guys want to be a part of. Like, it's not snowboarding, it's not all these other cultures that they're already a part of. It's like some other underground thing. And he was just like, yeah, do a minimum run, whatever. And so they got these patches made. We actually did some R&D. I was trying to get reflective stitching at the time.
That'd been
and they had some samples of some reflective stuff. And I was like, anything I could throw reflective stuff on, I was in, because it just has a double meaning. It's like safety. You're riding your bike at night. You're probably wearing a lot of black clothes, maybe, and you have a beanie with reflection. But we weren't able to do the reflective stitching because basically to make it reflective, there's like little glass beads that will break sewing needles, the needles and stuff. So that was like our hang up. So we didn't end up doing that, but we did like a silver thread instead of the reflective thread.
Did that have anything to do with Tyler getting sponsored by Cole?
I think no, I don't think I had anything to do with it. I think it was just another like, hey, this guy is a sick rider. We need to put him on. And Tyler was also, I think, making his rounds of like getting sponsored with things. And yeah, he was just part of the same group.
I've seen Cole at big stores before. Yeah. I didn't actually know about it before Tyler. Cause,
yeah, they're big in the Northwest, big with snowboarders and stuff, and just also maybe surf or something. I'm not sure, but yeah, they're always kind of like around. And they were also doing like, they would also do hats for other companies and stuff, but they wouldn't be branded. It would just be like, oh yeah, let's go through Cole because they have like really good vendors, or their manufacturing process is really good, or they just like know what they're doing with the design and the mock-ups and stuff. So they were always kind of like, if you were in the industry and you're like, I worked for a company that like was, we got our stuff made by Cole, it's going to be good.
It's a big deal. Quality.
So I'm sure we had a bunch of little collabs.
This is a random one. I just remembered for some reason. Remember you guys were working on a DIY spot at one point. Whatever happened to that?
Which one was it? We always would clean up parts of the town and just ride it, and then they'd like, they bulldoze it the next day. The living room. Oh yeah, this was like a building that got demolished. Did it catch on fire? And they just something that they just had the foundation left, and people would dump furniture there, and there was like an IKEA sofa that Chris. I'm pretty sure Chris and Jacob had nothing better to do than just go to this place after work and like. Just tear this couch apart, made like a little box to grind on, and it was our little sanctuary. There's lots of parts of Seattle that
there
were
was
like
some Quikrete on there too, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, I remember Chris. Yeah, Chris was DIY guy. Buy a bag of Quikrete and then carry it on his bike or something. It'd just be, or he had a scooter maybe at the time, and yeah, that's where I learned how to nose manual actually. And I very quickly lost the nose manuals after that. But I remember I had a good clip where I nose manualed like over like a door or something that was laying around, and I remember being stoked when I actually got it, where you feel it, you get in the groove, and you land it, and your back wheel doesn't clip the edge, and you're like kind of pop it up a little bit, and so I'm like, okay, I got it, done. Don't need to know that trick anymore. Did
it once, I'm done.
Got it on video or something. Got a photo of it. Yeah, so the living room DIY spot. There was another DIY spot we called Needle Alley. as a joke because it was like this little sliver of it was like a dirt bank in the middle of these two buildings, like on the edge of a hill. So it was really steep, and it was basically just a bunch of needles and gravel. And me and Chris and Devin and Jacob, I don't know if you were there at the time, we went and bought like a shovel from the hardware store and bought some gloves and bought like brooms and some just tools, and we just swept it and made a little just quarter pipe kicker. And I just remember like we cleaned it. It was all muddy, and we swept it and cleared it out. And then the next time we went back, a bunch of people just started parking there. It's like we cleared up parking spaces for people. and then Chris didn't even care about, like, he bought a shovel and he just like stashed it behind some stuff. Yeah. Like, and then it just was gone one day. And so we like probably did that for like a week or so. And by the time it cleaned up, people just were like, oh yeah, this is a new space that we can park our cars in.
Sick.
But yeah.
I want to backtrack a sec
to
the revival.
Yeah.
What was filming for that like? What was the experience like? What did you think about the final product?
It was a really cool experience. It felt surreal, actually. Like, I think Tom Briggs or Wayne hit me up and were like, hey, we want to do this thing. We really want to highlight Seattle. Tom's in Vancouver, Canada, right over the border. So Wayne is in Vancouver, and then Tom was more Toronto. Yeah. So
Tom Briggs, not Tom Mosher, right?
Tom Briggs, yeah. Different Canadian Tom. Different Tom. A lot of Toms in the fixed gear world. Yeah, so they were like, yeah, we want to do this thing. And Wayne came down and filmed stuff, and he's like a video guy. Like, he knows his stuff. And he just made friends with everybody. So we were like, honestly, didn't really have a plan. It was like, I'm like, everybody come out and like get a clip, get a part. But it really kind of had to get narrowed down, obviously, because you can't have everybody in the city having their own part. And yeah, Wayne came down, made friends. He came down a couple of times, I believe. Filming was, I kind of learned this, that you just really, if you're filming for something, you have to like go out and get your parts. You can't wait for the filmmaker to be like, all right, Zach, it's your turn. We're like, we're going to go to the spot and you do this trick. It's like, no, you have to be like, I know the spot I want to go to. I know what I want to do. Like, you got to practice your stuff. You're not sitting there like wasting everybody's time.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Exactly. And I feel like I would have had more clips in there if I really would have pushed it, but everybody wanted their time too. So it was like competing with, how much time can we pull, from Wayne and like get him to do this and that. But another cool clip that I really like from that was we did some scooter filming. So tried to do our best MASH, impersonation, or like get a scooter to follow us. And, that was inspiring to me. I loved MASH, and that was one of my parts that really got me going with fixed gear. Yeah, so bombed a hill. Like, Seattle's known for its like really steep hills. Lots of them, I think maybe even more so than San Francisco. Like, San Francisco
that's a bold statement.
San Francisco has gnarly hills, but Seattle's just like, it's like you can't get around town without going up and down hills. So I didn't ride San Francisco too much, but anyways, I think people will agree if you ride in Seattle, it's a pain in the ass. So we bombed some hills, and then I got some good like clips. I liked slow-mo, which I don't know if you ever watched any of my videos. I probably put too much slow-mo. I think it was just a cool, like, I like seeing the little details. And so they did some cool, like,
yeah, the Revival had a lot of slow-mo.
Yeah, he did some cool slow-mo, and like, what's it look like when I do a Keo bar slow motion? Like, what's my foot doing? What's my hand doing? What's this?
You get to really break it down.
And then there was a part where I think it was Chris. Chris did something. I remember one fun part. There was like a fall day. There was some leaves. Was it your part, Jacob? It was Chris's. And so there's this clip that it's very obvious if you look for it. There's like leaves falling, and Chris does this like slow-mo bar spin or whatever. And I'm sitting at the top of a fence with a bunch of dead leaves, like sprinkling them down out of frame. And so they're just like, raining down in slow-mo, and then
Yes.
Chris comes up and does a trick, and then I'm like, dude, that was my idea. Like, let me climb this thing and whatever.
The artificial leaves.
Yeah, it's
falling.
like leaves don't fall like that, bro. Like crumpled up.
I need to look out for that when I rewatch
yeah,
it again.
so that was good.
Yeah, so you split apart with Jacob.
Yeah. So we didn't have any say in that or whatever. It was kind of like, all right, get our clips. But I probably just didn't have enough clips for a whole song. Tyler took up the whole damn video with his all his cool tricks. Yeah. So yeah, that was cool to split apart because I really. That's the one thing too. It's like if you don't get to pick your song and you're like, oh, I hope you pick a good song where people want to repeat. And I think my favorite part of that video is Chris's song because I just love that song.
What song is it? Do you remember?
What?
Jamie, can you pull up?
I almost can sing it. No, it wasn't Girl Talk. It was something. Oh man.
Whatever song Tom Mosher's part had was good. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but I know I really like it. And Tyler had a New Order, which was really good.
Yeah, that was pretty mellow though, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit. It was like I don't know. It was a little artsy, but in a cool way.
Yeah.
It was iconic, really.
Yeah. Gossip. That could be it. That sounds right. Anyways, whatever. If you guys know, and drop it in the comments.
Yep.
Like and subscribe. Am I doing this right?
Yeah, good enough.
Okay. Yeah. So that was a good time, and yeah, I mean, not Tom.
Oh, we're listening. So let's skip ahead.
Oh yeah, this intro.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Yeah. So I think Wayne will occasionally hit us up and say, "Hey, we should do a revival reunion." And it's been 10 years. It was 10 years ago. It's like 15 years now, but I think 5 years ago, it was like, oh, we should do a reunion and get the bros together. And
you guys need a revival reunion tour.
Revival.
Revive the revival. Why was it called the revival? Do you know?
I think people kind of thought that things were dying out, maybe.
In 2008.
Yeah, I think we had no concept. I think that's it, but I don't know. You have to ask Tom Briggs. I think he did a lot of the art direction on that.
Okay, yeah. I do speak with Tom Briggs via Instagram.
Is he still working as Specialized?
Yes.
Dude, that's so sick. He's like designing graphics for bikes and stuff.
Really cool. He does some really cool graphic work.
Nice. Yeah, he's a Seahawks fan, so sometimes I get to design some stuff for the Seahawks, and he's like, dude,
sick.
I can't believe you get to do Seahawks. Like, dude, you get to do stuff for
Specialized.
Like, yeah, Specialized. You got Tour de France riders or something
Yeah.
riding your bikes.
That's
That's
cool. What were some of your favorite other DVDs?
This isn't even a fixture, but the DVD I watched most is Fully Flared. The Final Flare. The Final Flare. We got inspired by that so much. I bought it. I worked at a snowboard shop in the warehouse. I was working at Levi's. At the same time I was working at a snowboard shop doing warehouse stuff, and I was running the blog, and I was like, yeah, hustling, trying to get, make ends meet. Yeah. So I worked at this place and I got my discount. So I bought the Fully Flared, and it was like Blu-ray. And I didn't even have a Blu-ray player. So I had to go to Chris's, and we had to borrow his roommate's like Xbox or whatever, we watched it and just loved it. And it was just like, this is the sickest.
Yeah. A lot of slow-mo.
That's why I think every slow-mo it's going to be an explosion doing like a 20 stare or something like that. But yeah, I love that video. So MASH, obviously, heavy rotation. The first fixture movie, I'm actually piecing together my origin story as we talk right now. But I believe it was called Pedal. It was sold in Urban Outfitters.
Whoa.
And my buddy, they might have had a book along with it or something. My Brian Roccapiso, once again, the guy who's taking pictures of me doing track stands and stuff, he worked at Urban Outfitters and bought this video. So he's like, we should watch this. And I think that's when I was like, dude, this is like going to be a thing. And that was more bike messengers and like alley cat races.
It's 10:56, FYI. Yeah, we do have to be out of here. No, thank you. We do have to be out of here in about 4 minutes. So we're going to skip. We're going to unfortunately skip to a little bit closer to the end here.
Sure. We always pick back up later if you'd like.
That's true. I would like to. But we have been going for an hour, so we're doing well.
Okay.
I think we covered a lot. There's a few kind of like, I mean, I'd like to hear your finished thoughts that you were going with right now with your origin story and DVDs.
Oh yeah, Pedal, Macaframa, those guys came through, so we were filming for that. I crashed big in trying to film for that, and I got wrecked. It was in the very beginning. It was like in a promo video where there's like a little speck of a person getting filmed riding on a hill, and I ate shit. It was just a flash of white. My bike was like gone. So that was
a Macaframa promo.
Yeah, it might have been in the extra footage or the intro or something, and you hear a girl screaming, and it was the girl who was like riding behind me. She thought I died. I could go into that too, but no. So yeah, Macaframa was good. I remember when MASH. A lot of these were just videos that weren't even out. There was like teasers, you know. Because I remember the MASH video came out, and we had a big premiere. Not that big, but like for us, it was big. Oh man. God, there's probably more, but MASH was the big one.
Did you like any of the later ones? I don't know, Revoked or...
Revoked was...
That was Chris Fonseca.
I remember liking those videos that he made, but I don't remember like putting them on repeat or anything. I don't think I'm not sure if I even owned it.
Any of the later Fixed Freestyle stuff? Like Can't Fool the Youth?
Zane came and filmed a little Can't Fool the Youth, and they stayed at my house. That's where Mike Schmidt peed into
JD's mouth
in my house, and I didn't realize it until like watching the video. I was like, dude, that was in my house. And then I'm pretty sure it's like there was a cat. One of the cats was peeing in this corner for a while, and it really makes a lot of sense now that it's probably Mike's piss that was the cat was peeing on. Oh God! But no, I'm out of that house now. Thank God. Where were we at?
Okay, I have my final questions here.
I never really even saw the Can't Fool the Youth 2, the one that like
you never saw it
until recently when you uploaded it, because I don't think Zane ever sent me a DVD.
Damn.
But all right, it was good. But yeah,
the Seattle section is the best part of that video.
Oh yeah,
it's the main part of the video, so it makes sense. Okay, there's 2 must-have questions on this podcast that we do. Fixed gear Mount Rushmore, 4 people.
Tom Lamarche, Keo, 4 people?
Yep.
Tom Lamarche, Keo, Masan, or Fix Your Freestyle?
It doesn't matter.
No, Masan's in there. I would say, shit, do I go Tyler Johnson?
It's a good one.
You got to have
He's
one of the crew. I think he's probably the most well-known out of everybody. Yeah, let's do that.
Nice.
Tyler would hate me if I didn't say his name, right?
Yeah, Tyler would be really
Tyler
offended.
loves me no matter what.
And then your favorite sandwich. What's the best sandwich?
Oh, best sandwich. Let's just go with my go-to recent sandwich. It's Un Bien, Caribbean roast.
Damn, what's included in that?
Caribbean meat, roasted pork and like a grilled onions and just some good like spices and stuff. I think maybe some grilled
delicious.
Peppers and on like a good like hoagie type roll, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
Hate to wrap this up super early because there was a lot more that we could have gone into, but we are out of time. Shout outs, anything you want to say as your final messages to the people?
Dude, shout out to you, man. And shout out to the whole squad, the whole, the Fix Your archive. I love it. Like, I think my whole reason for doing Fix Your blogging and stuff was like, I wanted to have our mark left and like, just capture it while it was going on in case anybody was going to forget about it, even if it didn't develop into anything. And so I think it's this next generation, like what you guys are doing, is really important, and really important to me.
Thanks,
to
man.
be able to look back. And like, honestly, I haven't, been in the loop for a while, and it's nice to be able to come back to something and be like, okay, I can absorb this content. And there's like a historical vibe and just really nice to see some of the familiar names and faces being popped up. And though the crazy knowledge that you have is impressive, because I'm like, man, I can't even remember half the stuff that I experienced, and you will pull it out of your ass, so that's pretty sick.
The historian.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Make sure to like and subscribe, all that good stuff. More off track to come. Thank you, Zach, for coming and being on the show.
Shout out to, I just made my ZLOG Instagram public. A lot of car content, but
yeah. Check out Cars and Coffee.
Yeah, let's do it. That's what I'm doing these days. So.
All right. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, man.
Appreciate
you.
Cheers. Cheers.